Hello and welcome to another episode of the Manufacturing Leaders Podcast with me, Mark Bracknell, Managing Director of Theo James Recruitment. In today's episode, we welcomed Mark Cholmondeley, the Managing Director of Libellum, based in Teesside. I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. It was probably one I hijacked. It was more of a conversation between two small business owners, and we just talked about the growth of small businesses, what it's like to go from, in Mark's case, a contractor into making a decision to start and grow his own business, the importance of culture, training, essentially treating people and managing people right with respect and flexibility. And it's one of those episodes you're going to learn quite a lot from in that respect. But look, this is an episode where two people are just talking about the challenges, but also the great things about owning a business. And in Mark's case, we talked a lot about his values and his reasons for leading a business and growing a business, which ultimately wants his 16-year-old son to join at some point, which I thought was a fantastic target to have. So please sit back and watch and listen. Please, as ever, do me the honor of just clicking that like and subscribe button. It really helps grow the show and the channel. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Perfect. Right, a warm welcome to Mark Cholmondeley, the MD of Libellum, based in Teesside. How are you, Mark? How are we doing?
I'm good, thanks. You?
Yes, very good, very good. And thank you very much for coming on here today. I'm looking forward to going through your growth. I really enjoy the growth of a business from its infancy 7 years ago. So before we dig into that, the first question is the same question I ask everyone. What does it mean to you to be a leader?
It's multiple things. I think the short answer is sort of whatever you're setting down as how to do things as a business, that's how you do it. I'm a bit more of a leader by example than I am a leader of words, which frustrates a lot of the team, but it's the way I do it.
Yeah.
I think if we set and agree something, that's how we're going to do it. But I think a leader for me is, I always remember the comment of, I want to be the dumbest person in the room. So if I'm bringing people in on my team, I want people smarter than me. And then my job is really I brought them into the business for a reason. It's to bring out their strengths, what they're going to bring to us, and what also I can do to help develop them on areas that they're not so strong on. So it's kind of twofold. It's sort of setting examples and developing the team and letting them express their skills and experience that they've got.
Yeah, love that. I wish I'd learned the dumbest person in the room a bit earlier, actually, because it's interesting because you mentioned that leading from the front and then that which they link, but actually sometimes it can almost be a juxtaposition that, and I think I felt that because you want to lead from the front, and I think when you first start business, you just, well, I presume that was just doing everything, showing that, but actually you're right, true leadership is recruiting the right people, getting out of the way and allowing people to be better at you are at things, and that's hard at first, isn't it? It's difficult.
It is, and it's hard to let go. I mean, especially how we started my vision for the business. It's nowhere near as it is now.
Yeah.
That letting go element and bringing people in. I've never been bothered in personal or work life of somebody knowing more or being better at something than me. And that's never bothered me. But then it's letting them go, and because it is so personal to you,
it's your baby, isn't it?
It's letting them take a lead into it. They're coming into your name. They're representing the Libellum when they're out and about or speaking to people. But it has been challenging. I'm not going to lie with that. Yeah,
it's that trust thing. But I think you find once you do find those people just get it. That's such an unbelievable feeling, isn't it? That took me a long time to feel like that. Probably took me 5 years, really. It's a challenging one.
I think I'm probably about the same, the time scale of coming through that. And it took some challenging conversations off the guys.
Yeah.
And once you realise that they're only really there to help you and help the business, they're not trying to have a negative impact on it. They want to take work pressure off me. They want to do what they do as a job.
Yeah.
It took a while as well.
Yeah, it does. And that's through, they will see you as a leader leading from the front. And I think once they see you leading from the front, they're, like you say, they want to take that stress away from you and make your job easier. And that can be a difficult transition. So I completely get that. Briefly tell us a little bit about Libellum, please, Mark, in some context.
Libellum as a company, we predominantly do non-destructive testing and inspection. As part of that, we offer sort of quality management services around BSE N 1019, 9001, those types of things. It all links in. Where we are now is just to help a business in all their quality issues or systems or client-specific needs. It's quite a thing now, and it has been for some time, that you kind of need that independence and impartiality, so it's a third party that's often used for that, which is good in a lot of ways because we can do things to the standards and correctly, and we don't have a boss, even though clients are technically our bosses, a boss that we have to go, yes, okay, we'll do that. We can stand back a little bit. So it's quite difficult to put all our services into one. I've had a challenging time this last 6 months putting a brochure together because I don't want it to be too big, too small. Yeah. But it's basically around any quality issues that a business may find to deliver their product or service.
Okay, I'm with you. Tell me through the decision in terms of going from a contractor, and I think there's a lot of people in that boat where they might be contracting and earning good money and it's, they've got a lot of work on board, but they have that itch to build something, whether that be financial, whether that be for legacy or to pass something down, whatever the reason is. People get to that stage where they think, I think I can build a business here. Most don't. Most stay as contractors. What was it about you thought, I want to give this a go?
It's something I've thought about for a long time, and previous positions and the positions I was in, previous companies and the positions I was in, and as a job role, what I was doing, it's basically running projects and running jobs anyway. I've always had that bit of an itch to do something myself. Always believed I can do it, which I think is important. But in all honesty, I kind of kidded myself in the beginning. Through COVID, I have 35. If I can be happy getting 40 hours a week for myself, jobbing around Teesside, at home every night, bringing in decent money, that was my first goal. But I think that itch sort of gets the better of you, and it's, well, I've started that now, so why don't I push on to the next bit? Or why don't I look at this? And I think also on the other side of it, you forget who you know, who knows you, the reputation you've built over working for the companies, where things start to come your way. I'm quite a big believer in right place, right time. I think things happen for a reason, and that at the time might not feel like the right path, but it ends up, and you as a person decide how you want to make that outcome from the path that you've been given. I think, if I'm honest, because that's been a good few years ago now, it was probably 2 years ago when I went, right, this is the time to go. We were, at the time when I decided, I was renting desk space off a client, quite happy in that, relatively small. For whatever reason, we parted ways and we both moved out of that place. So I had to look at somewhere else to go. I thought, well, I could look at a desk space somewhere in an innovation centre, or I could look at getting our standalone premises, making it what we want and pushing it on. And I think it was at that point I realised I want to go for it. And I've kind of kidded myself for the last couple of years of what I want from this. Now is the time to really push and have a go. We've been very sort of acute with it. We haven't overreached. We haven't ploughed everything straight back in, or it has been growing as the means demand. We've not used any loans or anything like that. It's all been sort of self-generated through the business, which has meant we've done in terms of asset and people the right way. I think what has caught us out is the rapid growth that we had. Once I decided that and we went, right, let's go, the rapid growth catches you out. Yeah. You can grow too big too quickly.
Yeah. And that is absolutely a challenge, isn't it? I mean, looking back now, do you think you're, like you say, right place, right time, opportunity there? Can you pinpoint for you why it was important? Was it building something you were proud of? Was it financial? Was it a mixture of everything? What do you think for you it was the big reason why you did so? Because I think there's been people sat there going, I'm earning good cash, I am at home every night, but actually people will have that itch. And could I? What was it for you that it was the turning point in that decision?
I think it's a strange one. We're probably going to talk about it later with the imposter syndrome, what have you. But I think still as an entrepreneur, business owner, whatever you want to call it, you have that inner belief that you can do this and you've got something there to grow it. You can maybe offer, because I'm not in a new market. It's not a new product or service. It's around for donkey's years.
Yeah.
It's the belief that I can grow something that would have the culture I wanted from lessons learned from other places, lessons learned from clients who weren't quite happy. And then that's kind of the drive to, yeah, we can give this a go. And I think a big drive for me was, I'm sure my wife would agree with this, I like things my own way and I like to do things how I want to do it.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it. You kind of live or die by your sword.
Yeah.
So the driver, everybody, no matter what they say, has a financial thought in them. It's, as a business, you have to. That in the world, you have to. The idea being, you look to be sat on the beach somewhere in years to come, and you just off your private yacht or whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
So I think it's accumulation of stuff. I think it's that itch in yourself to do it. I think it's a belief in yourself, which is massive, and I've had some massive highs and lows over the years. And the drive to go out and do it and set your own way, with knowing that if you do it properly and manage everything properly, you can see the financial rewards.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think someone asked me that question not too long ago, and I said the freedom, that autonomy, and it's not. I don't think it's an ego thing, is it? That you have to be the one to make decisions, because I actually quite happy for other people to make every decision in this business if it's right, but you've got the freedom ultimately to. That it's yours, isn't it? And you can do what you want to do if you feel right. That's a feeling I think I underestimated. Is probably one of the biggest drivers going forward.
It is. It's massive, and yet it's funny if you said freedom to people who necessarily don't have their own business. The amount of times I get my friends going, like, "Do you want to come and play golf? Do you want to come and do this?" I can't. I'm working, but you work for yourself.
Yeah,
but if I'm not in the business, but it is, and I think the key for me in developing the business and me as a leader or manager moving forward is allowing other people to make the decisions. I think if you bring in the right people and set the right culture and tone of what you want from the business, that should naturally happen, and you can feel more comfortable allowing people to do that, one for a better word.
Yeah, without doubt. Looking back, let's say the first 2-3 years, what was the biggest lesson, do you think, that you've learnt? And I guess advice you would give to people starting out in those really early days, would you say?
I think there's a couple of fold. I think it's very easy in this economic climate with the amount of finance and loans out there to go out and go, yeah, we'll just take out a big loan, we'll do what we want, we'll do everything that we want first. I think you've got to set your stall of what you want to achieve and how you're going to get there. I think where it's difficult is, like, if I could talk to myself now to back then, it was like, stick with the process. This is where you're going. This is where you're going to be. Even though now, after the good years we've had, you're never happy. You always want to move it on. But if I said this to Mark 3 or 4 years ago, he'd have bit my hands off.
Yeah.
And I think kind of the message out of that is trust the process. If you've got your vision in place, you've got to have an element of patience that it's going to work out and it's going to happen. I mean, my family was sick of me harping on and going, but it's not there where I want it to be. This isn't happening. And that contract, we haven't got that, or it's been delayed a year. It's those types of elements that you've got to have the patience that if your process is right and your drive's there, it's going to come.
Yeah.
And you've got to believe that. I'm not saying everything works out. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. I feel fairly comfortable now, but you don't know what tomorrow brings, so that just takes it all away. So you can never have that 100% security. But if you believe in that process and you're willing to change in that process, then you will get somewhere near enough where you want to be.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, that, to reflect where you are sometimes. And would you have taken this 7 or 8 years ago? Because I don't think you're ever satisfied, are you? Because you're always looking for the goalpost change weekly, don't you?
Yeah.
You do.
They do, and it's funny, we had our ISO 9001 surveillance the other week, and I obviously haven't seen the guy who does it for a year, and he comes in and says how he can see the progression, he can see the movement in that, but because you're in it and you're working with it daily, you don't see it.
Yeah.
And I try, I'm not very good at it, but I try and have that time to sit back and reflect on where we're at, what we've done, what we've achieved, and because I think it's too easy to look at the negatives or the improvements or the failures that you've done and to hand harp on. And I think you've got to look at the successes and achievements, but then look at what went wrong and how you can fix that hopefully is going to make it better. I think it's too easy to just jump on the negatives too much. And it is very easy. It's hard to change that mindset, and it's hard not to see the successes that come through and where you're kind of at now to where you were.
Yeah, it's a tough balance, isn't it? Yeah,
definitely.
Because on one sense, you're being critical means that you want to improve, and that there's that lack of complacency could potentially set in if it's all good. But at the same time, you've got to also ride the wave and enjoy the good times. Otherwise, what we're doing it for? It's that's the real challenge. What would you say you are? What drives you, or because some people are driven by fear, some people are driven by legacy. What would you say now 7 years is the main driver for you? Because it's bloody hard work, and we've had some, if you look at 7 years, probably some of the toughest 7 years we've had, and really in regard to external factors, which you could look for opportunities out of those, but there's still been bloody hard things to pivot around, haven't they?
There has, without doubt, but I think there will always still be opportunities there. I mean, and about the hard times, there's a lot of obviously I'm nowhere near the sort of finances or level in business, but there's a lot to say that out of crises is opportunity. And you can, some of the richest people in the world have made money out of crises and have seen an opportunity and took it. I think, I suppose, the driving factor for me now is, I suppose fear might be the right word. It's the fear of the work that we've put in over those 7 years and the reputation that we have and that we're growing. It's kind of all for nothing if that goes. It'll soon get forgotten about. I mean, you do forget about a lot of companies that have gone now. It's just natural. You move on with it and you don't think of it. So I think there's a drive for that. But I think the other drive I have is I see so much opportunity still in growth in the business. You never, for me, you don't regret doing something, you regret not doing it. So by doing this, even if it doesn't work out and something happens, I can't say I didn't put enough into it. I didn't work hard enough. I didn't drive to get as best out of it for the business and for the people involved as we can. And the clients at the end of the day, because I suppose in a real terms, if something happens, there's nothing stopping me falling back on the contracting, but you want to keep them relationships, keep that reputation going. So it's I know it shouldn't be, but an element of, I don't want other people to go, because you always get the naysayers and the critics that go, nah, I knew Mark wouldn't make that work. I knew it would fall flat. So it's a couple of things to keep going. And I think the last point and the biggest one for me is, my son's 16 now, and you go through the different stages of life with the kids, of where their dad's on a pedestal, dad's a nightmare having to go at me all the time, and you kind of want to leave something so when he's older, going, yeah, I'm proud of what my dad did, and I'm hoping he comes into this. If he does, brilliant. If not, but I still want him to be proud of what we've achieved. So yeah, there's a couple of driving factors, but I'd be lying to say the fear wasn't a big one in there.
I couldn't resonate any more with that. The people always say you should never be driven by fear of failure. But we are who we are, and I think you can work on things. But actually, would I often think, would I have the same success as I have now if I wasn't driven by failure? Could I be complacent? Because I am exactly the same. I'm petrified of losing what I've built, and I often in my head go, almost work out a plan B to make myself feel better if something came along and said, right, someone said, right, you're closing your business down. That's the touch wood have never been close to that. But in my head, you just never know, and it's nice to have that comfort. But I think we are who we are. I think I've got to the conclusion where I've just accepted that, and you've got to lean into these sometimes and think, right, that's who I am. But you balanced it out very nicely with the legacy piece and making your kids proud of you. And there's no better driver than that. When there's tough times at that age, at 16, he's going to see his dad grafting hard through difficult periods and versus parents who aren't like that, and they're just not a positive influence. I think we underestimate how big that is on kids when they see that positive role model in their life.
without doubt, I mean, I know myself, I know I've come from families where both parents worked hard, were never shy of it, very few days off. We know that you get back what you put in, and you can have the lifestyle you decide on what you put in.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hoping that your kids are a product of their upbringing, and if they're seeing the work that you put in. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't like him seeing the lack of work-life balance that I sometimes have.
Yeah, that's
But
about. Yeah.
if he sees that ethic and that work rate, I'm like, yeah, okay then.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep going this. And without, it's kind of that back to leading by actions and leading by words necessarily. I don't need to say anything to him about that. He sees it.
Yeah. They're your values, 100%. If you go back to those days where you were starting to grow, and those first one, that first two, those hires are petrifying and so important, and often most companies, including mine, get them wrong. What was that like? You know, what lessons have you learned from you set yourself trying to grow, you know, in terms of whilst also all this work coming in and trying to justify what was that like?
Was difficult because the balance of not trying to overstretch the business resources and then putting the pressure on that I've now got to take care of somebody's well-being here and livelihood, that I need to pay them. We pay on the 10th of every month. I need to pay them their salary due on that regardless. So yeah, it was difficult. It was kind of an added pressure, but that then helped the drive going, right, I can work out my budgets and forecasts of what I need. So this is what we can fall back on. I think I've been very good. I know with what we have and the cost in the business, if I fall back onto my core business with anything else, we will survive. We will, unless anything major, godly world happens, we will survive. And I think I learned that. Let's look at worst case. Let's look at what we need to just keep people going. I think on the other side of it as well, was that about bringing people in and is it going to be a right fit? I'm quite a big believer that people are a right fit for however long they're meant to be there for. So you might have people come into your life for the full life, or you might have people come into your life for a year or 6 months, or when I was contracting a 2-week shutdown or something like that. They were right at that time, and you can learn and bring from that. I think it has taught me to be different managing contractors to managing staff. I think that's a huge difference. I have a lot of conversations with one of my guys over that he reminds me of looking other ways, and I go back, well, this is what we're working on and what we need to look at. But it's getting that balance. It's as a contractor, it's a conversation we've just had today. As a contractor, if somebody came to me, I'm away from home, I'm there to work, no plans. Can you do an extra couple of hours? Yes. Whereas staff, contracted hours, they have plans. You can't rely on that, and you certainly can't make them do it. So there was a couple of changes in that. There was going back to people in for a certain amount of time. You got it at the time if people leave or you end up parting ways for the reasons. But you've got to look at it as what we've benefited from that. What have I learned from that? So we've benefited X, Y, and Z, but I've also learned A, B, and C that I need to move on to more managing people. And it's kind of that allowing it to organically happen. Yeah. We pride ourselves on being quite flexible and loose. Things change in our industry. We could get a call now for work tomorrow. It can happen very quickly, and I think you've got to be like that in managing and leading and bringing people in as well. You've got to remember that it's human beings you're dealing with. There's an outside world to Libellum, and they have other issues that they're dealing with, family problems or anything. And it's remembering that and sort of bringing that into people, noticing a difference in mood or a difference in attitude or anything like that. So that's been a massive learning for me, that looking at people in that way and how they fit into the business. But you know as well as I do, especially the business you're in, that the screen keeps locking, sorry. The industry of recruitment, it's very hard to get people, and you can throw the money around left, right and centre, but the money's not necessarily everything. You've got to set that right culture that people want to work for you and want to stay within the business. And that's been something that we've worked quite hard on, of what else we can do. What else apart from the money that we can offer people to do that. And in many ways now, it was hard for me to look at it that way, but looking at it now, that sort of the small family style business that we are, that's what we want.
Yeah.
We don't want people sitting there with Sunday night dread. Oh, going to work in the morning. Yes, you're never going to get away. We all want to be off for long weekends and do that, but you want people to kind of enjoy coming in and not be nervous about coming in the next day. And there has been a change in that. And we haven't taken on huge staff, but each one we have has developed that change in how we do it and working together. I think an interesting point for me is seeing how different people work together and how they co-inhabit, how they get along, how they solve issues, how they bring it up, how to get an issue out of them that they're not the most speaking of sometimes. So yeah, it's been an interesting. I wouldn't say it's been massively challenging. I don't think that's been a huge challenge. It's just been interesting and different. You look back every 6 months and you're like different points of where the cultural relationships were. It's worlds apart now than it was 6 months ago.
Yeah, it does. It's evolved. I completely agree. And I guess a lot of what you're talking there is emotional intelligence. You know, you can call it what you want, but you've obviously identified the importance of understanding people by not only what they say, how they act, all those small matters, but that takes a proactive approach, doesn't it? You have to take an understanding and listen to them, which can be difficult when you're in a busy office environment, which is really important. Has that been conscious for you to go, or is it just you as a person, do you think? Because if you think about your management journey, how that's evolved, because it can be difficult managing people in your business versus managing people when you're a contractor or you're working for a business, for example.
I think it has been there. I mean, you're right. Managing a team of contractors, it's very easy to go, right, you're not working out, you're not fitting, away we go, bring somebody else in. I think it's evolved over the years, and it's still always going to evolve. And the amount of conversations I have with a couple of the guys who keep highlighting that and bringing that up, to think about this or to look at it that way. Or the biggest sort of criticism I get off the team is, let us help and let us do it. You don't talk to us about your workload burden. Let us do more, or let us try and help. And that's evolved over time. Dealing with people and managing different people has evolved over time. Again, managing contractors, you can kind of treat everybody the same within reason. Whereas when you've got a team of staff, it's often an individual basis, and it's kind of picking up the sparks that will motivate them, which you get out of more. And also when the negatives are there, or when there's an issue, about them having the confidence to be able to come to you and say, this is the problem I've got, or this is an issue, before it gets to the point of the blowout. Where we've had a couple where I've come into the office and one of the guys said, I need to talk to you, or I need to go and do this. No, I need to talk to you now. And it's trying to avoid that. It's trying to solve it earlier, or have the conversation.
Yeah.
But I think that's only helped us as a business. Our communication is so much better now.
Yeah.
By far.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say it's like a safe space, but it kind of is. You want somebody to, within reason, say their issues and say what they feel without feeling as though there's going to be repercussions over it. Oh, he's a troublemaker, we'll just get rid of him and move on to somebody else. It's not the way to do it.
I think you're right. The importance of that safe space, because I just think workplaces have changed a lot, and I think for good reason. I think previously the culture of someone at home, with people they know and trust versus work, was completely worlds apart. And there'll be some people who go, that's how it should be. But we're just people, whether you're in an office environment or at home, why should it be that different ultimately? So I think that you're right, that the importance of that safe space is so underrated. It is. And apologies for interrupting this episode with a very quick announcement about my business. Theo James are a specialist talent provider specifically to the manufacturing and engineering sector. I'm incredibly proud of what we've achieved since our inception in 2015. We specialise in roles from semi-skilled trades right the way up to our TJ exec search arm of the business, both from the contract and permanent side. We offer both bespoke one-off campaigns for hard-to-fill roles or a full partnership service where we become an extension of your business. For any information, please get in touch with me or the team. I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode. Thank you. People will trust you. And people will walk over hot coal for you, because I imagine you've had trickier times in the business where people have needed to work over and above, and they're the times where you really see how much they trust you and how much they care about their business. Because look, we're in a competitive landscape, and I'm sure all your staff could be snapped up by competitors if they really wanted to. So the fact that turnover has been low, I think is important. And if companies don't look at that, then that's why their turnover is high, in my opinion. It is. If you we're in a very
No, I'm just saying without doubt, and I think sort of as part of that about the trust thing as well. You've got to learn to make the employees feel valued, and I can be quite bad on somebody will say something and I'll take it on board, but I might not show it or express it, or I'm working on it, but I might not have told them or updated it that I'm working on it. So it's that safe space culture. I want to keep people. I don't want to keep bringing you and have to train and do all that. You want to keep people in. But then I'm kind of hypocritical there, because then the apprenticeships that we're going to be looking at, we want to train people in the industry the right way. Quite happy and probably aware, especially for young people, they're going to go out into the contracting world because they can make a lot more money, but you want them to come back.
Yeah.
So it's that culture is just massive for me.
Yeah, 100%. And you obviously care a lot about the industry to have the apprentices in, because that's a long game, isn't it? With no guarantee that they will stay there. So is that another important factor for you to try to continue to give back to the industry that's given you so much as well?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's definitely twofold. I'm not going to lie about it. It means with the low in resource availability that you can bring people in. We've had a lot of people leave, a lot of people retire. So there's that. But it's also because I am quite invested in the quality business that I think I can bring people through that are the same. It's only going to help the industry, which really kind of a top line approach to a lot of stuff we do is life saving. Some of the time, the products or the services or the inspection on walkways or tanks could end up in a life catastrophe incident if it's not done right.
Yeah.
And I just think you put more people back into the industry, it's only going to improve, which I think then also becomes a selling points to our clients. Their quality is improved but efficient, and that sells it off and helps them. Again, selfishly, the more they sell themselves, the more work they're getting.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, 100%. There has to be something back. We're in a very competitive landscape right now, and there's obviously a lot of small businesses, but there's also a lot of big corporate businesses. I personally think I've seen a change over the last 10 years, probably, where it's not all about the big corporate firms anymore. Quite the opposite. I think there's a lot more flexibility out there, and there's pros and cons. How have you found being a small business and tendering for work in this marketplace over the last 2 years, shall we say?
I found it quite difficult, and I think it's been a mixture of probably my targets, where I'm targeting the big businesses. Are we quite ready for that yet? And also the big business view of us as a smaller business. The second point frustrates the hell out of me, because they look at a smaller business versus a larger one. So a smaller one, we have X amount of cash flow, they have a larger one. But my overheads are low, which means I can pay the guys better, which means I get the better quality of guys. Us in a bigger business will hire or have the equipment from the same people. So the same cost, it's all about the people. But I understand from the big client's point of view that they want to have trust in a company that they're going to be around for that length of project. We're not going to have issues like, I can't pay the lads this week, so they're not at work. So I understand it. I think the last couple of years has taught me that we've got to continue to grow our reputation and let our work speak for itself. And I'm finding in the supply chain, yes, some of the bigger contracts we won't get, tendering for, but we won't get. But if I can pick off the low-hanging fruit of the supply chain, they see that quality and see all that work going into it, from the service to the documentation, all of that, pushes our reputation, which then means, well, hang on a minute, we've seen Libellum's reports from 10 different suppliers that are coming to us. The feedback's great, the documentation's great, why don't we look at them? So I think the last 2 years has taught me to change my strategy slightly. And again, back to what we said earlier, have the patience, trust the process, and in a year or two, I'm not saying that I'll turn down a big contract now. We will take it, we will manage it and do it well. But sort of in a year or two, the market and the tier one market will have more confidence in what we can deliver.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the natural growth that I've definitely picked up from the 2 years with it. I mean, we've just started a business development director last week, second week in, and he's of a similar approach coming into it, that we need to get that trajectory going. And because of the level of growth we want, some of these multi-million pound contracts, yes, are lovely, but we can pick up a lot of the smaller contracts, less value, but more of them, and pick it up. And it also allows us to continually improve our process, our systems, so that hopefully when we do get the big tier one ones, everything's in place and we can run it as we have done the tier two or the tier three stuff. I think it's just patience. It's just settle down a little bit, Mark. See what you've got and grow it bit by bit. Because the worst thing in the world is you jump at a big project and then all of a sudden something happens to it. You've let it down and that's everything gone.
Yeah.
Whereas if you take your time, get it right, it can be the making of something bigger on the next step.
And I don't know if it's the same in your industry, but I found when we first started in business, I had these names, a specific list of names, the biggest businesses in the north. I thought, these are the ones I want to work with. But I think you quickly find out they aren't the ones you want to work with, because there's no personal touch. You know, the terms are, here are the terms. There's no flexibility. And typically, you know, look at, you know, payment terms and that type of stuff. It's eye-wateringly long. And you can't influence projects as much as you can with smaller businesses where, you know, you know the key stakeholders, you have that personal touch, they align to your cultural values more, and it's less transactional. Do you find that with some of the projects you're working on, that actually the big ones aren't the ones you want to go at anyway?
I wouldn't say that they aren't the ones I want to go at. I think they pose their own challenges, because a client could ring me as the owner. They could have been dealing with one of the guys, but they could ring me at any time. So that personal touch is definitely a big selling point for us. Yeah. It's that, and also the size of us allows us to react a lot quicker. We don't have to go up to the chain. We don't have to potentially speak to the board. The decision makers are in that room, and they could be like, "Yeah, let's go." I think that kind of has a downside for the bigger companies, because they have that many people in, and it's the bigger processes and systems and departments they all have to go through and sign them off at each stage. It slows everything down. On the other side, I'd still be lying if I thought I don't want to go after them or be in with them.
Yeah, it's a balance, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. But I think my experience in history, because when I've been contracting and working for the companies, I've been on some of the biggest projects in the world and some massive projects, which has helped me to know how to be with those people, how to be with those people, you know, having a different approach and a different tact. I mean, I'll always be polite and friendly. I'll always go with a smile on my face. I am probably not your typical business owner. I hate wearing suits. If I could get away with it, I'd be in my shorts and that all the time. So I have changed that. I have smartened up a little bit. But
no, you do you, I think.
I like to call people mate. It's just how I am, and I won't change that. Yeah. And I think, back to your point when you're saying the change in sort of the environment, whether it was COVID, whatever, the change around and that, people are liking that approach. They're liking, you've got to be genuine. You have to be genuine. And the only way, for me, you can't pretend to be genuine. It's very easily found out. And I think people are liking that genuine personal touch from a smaller business. And I think that'll grow and grow. I suppose the trick is to keep that as the growth is coming in, is to not lose touch of that and end up being a corporate piece that people moan about, or we moan about now. It's very difficult to keep. But you're right, I've noticed that in the last couple of years, without doubt. I'm
smiling because I agree with that so much. And it is such a battle. I mean, I remember when I first started talking to, you know, the plan was to, you know, even this podcast, the plan was to speak to more managing directors and stuff and whatnot. And when I first started going on meetings with owners of businesses, I had some real fear and imposter syndrome in terms of like, there's a couple of my competitors who were a lot more polished than I am, shall we say, and stuff. And I'm just, a lad from Sheffield that's worked on, done okay. But it took me a little while to realise when I met. Good example, right? There's first meeting I had about the podcast was Bill Scott. Bill Scott is one of the biggest names in Teesside, right? And I got to meet him via the Entrepreneurs Forum, and he said, "Yep, come down." So I met him. Obviously, driving in, you just see this monstrous building, right? And I thought I was nervous, and within about 5 seconds of meeting Bill Scott, I was just like, "What's all the fuss about?" He's just such a down to earth, who clearly just treats everyone the same. Do you know what I mean? And it was such a good lesson for me because he was, he didn't have to give me the time of day, but he did. He was talking about networking and this and that, and because I was quite open with him about, my sort of fears and that side to it. Because the first time I was starting networking, and he was just giving me advice about this and that and stuff, and I just felt so much better. And I think there'll always be an area of imposter syndrome in me. I think just again, it's probably what you're driven by. I'm driven by fear of failure. I'm still driven probably by a little bit of imposter syndrome, but I think it's so important to be authentic, so important to be yourself. But it is harder. There's a couple of, there was a big business once, a very big business that wanted to work with us, and they loved everything about us, but they felt some of our LinkedIn posts were a little bit too personal. And they were a bit too, and we had had a tough decision to make as a business, and we decided to not work closely with them and change who we were. But that was a hard decision when you're a business owner and you see the pound, shilling, and pence and go, this could be life changing. But it's getting back to being true to yourself, isn't it? And being genuine. Yeah. It's hard though.
It is very difficult, and you do sometimes think you're right and look at it, go, I'll work with them. I can't stand them. I can't stand the culture. But I can see the invoice. I can see the payments. Happy days. But then when you look back in years to come and go, I wasn't true to myself there. I started this with this idea of the culture I wanted. Yeah. And I've become sort of a slave to the machine of, whatever you want, and we'll do it your way. I'll suddenly turn up in a shirt and tie and a suit. And you're dead right. And that's the biggest thing I found. You're right. Imposter syndrome will never go away. Never. Because I think as human beings, the majority of us are like, I'm not sure we should be doing this and we deserve this. And it's other people who make the big bucks or have the big business or whatever. But the more and more I'm speaking to, I'm quite a confident person, but I really struggle with small talk, and I really struggle with when I don't know somebody to have a chat with them, or if I don't know about the topic. Yeah. And that's something I've worked on. And with doing that, I've rapidly learned some of these, because we don't naturally deal with what we do with the MDs of the companies. We go through the quality or the operations guys. But as I've been getting more and more out there and speaking to these guys, it's like, wow, was that worried? They're just a normal bloke who likes to do on a weekend or walks his dog or... It's strange. It is.
So I'd say there's one thing as well. Bill Scott taught me, right? Because I said I get a bit nervous networking sometimes because there's all reason you said. I'm not a massive fan of walking in the room for the people I don't know and having to make small talk. I find it a bit fake. I like it if it's a room full of like-minded people and it's just like you say, a topic we know about. But if it's really sort of forced networking, I'm not a huge fan of it. And I said that to him, and I said, probably not be best as well. And he went, I'll give you a tip. He said, most people have a coffee or tea, don't they, network? I said, yeah. He said, next time you have a coffee or tea, he said, just look at everyone's hands. Look at everyone's hands. I said, that's all I'll say. I was right. And network, and I did. So when I went and look, and everyone was just shaking a little bit. And I thought, we're all winging this. We're all winging this. These are people who sound confident and look confident. I'm thinking, and made me feel instantly better that we're all doing our best. And that's all you can do in it. But it
is. But you forget that. I mean, I have no problem going in to do a presentation in front of 2,000 people. Yeah, the nerves will be there naturally, but nerves are good because nerves, for me, keep you on your game and everything. Yeah. And I've had that from sport the way through. You should be nervous before a game. You should be a bit panicky. So I can go and do that, but it's like go and meet them 5 people in that corner who you've never met before, but you have to make. It's like for me, it's like chatting a girl up.
Yeah. That's fear of failure.
It's just Yeah. Oh, I had to tell you that.
Completely, but no. And what's the next? What's the vision then? What's the future vision? What's the next sort of? You've taken this to a great level in the last 7 years. We talk about looking back and thinking, I would pinch myself. I'd take where I am now. Where would you take where you're going to be in 5 years? Do you think? What's the next step?
I've not thought that far ahead. I'd probably say the next 2 years to look back on that, because the landscape in this industry is forever changing. I think circumstances forever change as well. I'm definitely wanting to grow my staff levels, not my management levels, because I do believe we're here to make money, and the people are sat in an office, they're not making any money, they're not out in the shop floor, boots on the ground. So I want to increase our staff base, definitely increase the apprenticeship base to bring that in, to get guys and girls into the industry and getting out on the sites with good experience. The main thing that I want to look back and see the difference in our reputation in terms of reach, in terms of who knows about us. I feel as though we've got a reach within Teesside now, even though that's taken me a while. A lot of my work was outside the area, even though we're in Middlesbrough. I'm from Hartlepool, it was there. Is to increase our reach within the local area, because Teesside's booming, and historically it's had a great industry sector. And I want to be a part of that, and I want Libellum to be that legacy, that name in it. In 2 years' time, my boy will be 18, and I'd love him to be a part of it. I have warned him; he'll be an NDT tech right at the
Absolutely,
bottom. Yeah, doing all that learning through.
PPM.
So they're kind of short-term goals. Within that as well, for me personally, within the business, I want to continue to step away from not the day-to-day running, but the actively out on the sites doing the job, because I still do an element now with a small team where I need to service guys, because it's that usual, you need to have a certain amount to bring somebody else in. Until you get that, you've got to use resources there. And I want to be able to sit back this year to be able to plan, have that in place, to then look at more of a long-term strategic plan, which again, the business development director that brought in has mentioned that, and it's helping me to look at it as well, and having somebody else's eyes on where we want to go and want to push through. So I think by the end of this year, I'll probably be able to answer you where I want to be in 5 years. I think within the next 2, bigger staff, bigger reputational reach, and me kind of looking at the business of where we can go next.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we're reacting now and we are looking ahead, but I want to have a bigger view of what's happening. Great.
I think that they're superb plans to have. And look, this has been a joy, Mark. I've really enjoyed this. And apologies, I probably hijacked certain points, but I resonate with pretty much the whole story, and everything about it. And I think everyone else will as well. And what I like about this episode is that there are going to be people there, as I say, who are contracting, who are working with companies, and probably need sometimes a bit of a push to go, I'll give this a crack, because I think we're both in agreement that it's bloody hard work. It takes over your life, but the rest is just exciting and a good challenge and a good stress. And what you're building there, you're building a business and a legacy. And I think your target to have your son in the business 2 years, I just think it's amazing that. And I think we never forget why we do what we do, and to have that, I think is brilliant. I've got no doubt you'll get all those goals. So I just want to thank you so much for your time, and I'm looking forward to watching the Libellum grow, and it'll be great.
No, thank you. It's been helpful on the other side for me as well, with speaking to lads yourselves, with resonates. It's not alone. Everybody goes through this journey, and you're not special or you're not hard done by. This is what you go through to do it. So no, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening or watching this episode of the Manufacturing Leaders podcast. Please just like or subscribe. It really helps grow the show and obviously improve the industry. If you want any more information about Theo James, as I mentioned midway through the episode, please get in touch with me or the team. I would love to talk about how we can help you directly or your business. We are more than just a recruiter, and I know people say that, but it's something I'm incredibly passionate about. We are in business for much more than just a bums on seats approach. We want to help people grow. We want to help improve their lives. And ultimately, I want to work with businesses and people who share the same values as we do. And that's something I'm incredibly passionate about. So please, if that is you and you are passionate about that dream role or passionate about your people, please get in touch with me or the team. I would absolutely love to talk a bit more detail. Thank you very much. Speak soon.